All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Crestview Leads, where I, Tim Bolduc, the city manager for the city of Crestview, get an opportunity to sit down with people who've had influence in my life in the area of leadership. And we just talk about the different principles related to leadership, how we apply them to our growth professionally and personally. And so today I'm very excited about my guest, Mr. Mel Ponder. Welcome.
Thanks, Tim. Honored to be here.
Yeah, I know I have arrived when I got Mel on my podcast. This is good stuff.
It goes the other way.
No, I don't
to be
think
invited is a great treat.
So Mel and I have known each other now, I guess, about 12 or 13 years or so. And so a lot of different roles. Mel served as a city councilman, a mayor, a state representative, and then back as a county commissioner now. But I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself. I don't know anybody in Okaloosa County who doesn't know Mel. But tell us a little bit, kind of about yourself. Where did you grow up in this area? That kind of stuff. Just give us some background.
Great question. Yeah, I was born and raised in Ocala.
Okay.
I'm a third generation Floridian.
Nice.
And so born and raised in the state. I met my wife, who did grow up in Fort Walton and Destin area. Met her at school, at university, and we didn't start dating until we were out of college.
Right.
And then,
is that Florida State?
Of course, it's Florida State.
Right. Are you okay with talking about Florida State? Right. It's a painful era.
It's a painful era. But yes, when you've been through the bounce on the bottom so many years that we did, it's okay to still embrace the brand and keep pressing it.
Right.
But it's a little tough at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay.
I know.
Makes us stronger.
It makes us stronger.
So you met her in college.
Met her in college. We worked for the same bank. She was in Orlando, and I was in St. Pete. And then we had a training class together. Asked her to come over for a concert.
All right.
It turned into a date, and it turned into just being in awe of who she was. And we got engaged 5 months later, married 9 months after that.
Nice.
We just celebrated our 33rd year wedding anniversary. And so we got 3 kids, and we moved up to Panhandle in the early, 92. Lived in Pensacola a few years and moved back to Destin, 96 time period, and hadn't looked back. And so
is it 2 girls and a boy?
It's 2 boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl.
Great question. Yeah, 29, 27-year-old boys, and my daughter is 19.
Right.
She's a freshman in Alabama, and
come on now.
She'll be 20.
So you guys did.
We got one winning program in there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you guys finally got right with God.
you pray long enough, eventually
the
skies part. But
I love
she's a sophomore, and she turns 20 in December, and we're very, very fortunate. And so
that's exciting.
But my wife grew up here, and that's how we got relocated, and love living up here.
Yeah. So you were in the banking industry.
Started that way.
And then was it real estate? Wife's in real estate.
Wife's a broker. Yeah.
Okay.
I, in addition to being an elected official, I also am what they call the association executive, the Emerald Coast Association of Realtors, and been in that role for about a little over 2.5 years.
Good time.
Great, yeah.
I bet it's a good time to be in the real estate business.
Very much so. And
it's
a team.
Actually, it's been a tough time recently because of the changes in some of the rules.
Sure.
Right.
There's a lawsuit from NAR that came down for more greater transparency and accountability and disclosure signed up front about how commission is negotiated.
Right.
And that's been part of a national settlement, and we are for sure honoring all that. And
of course.
And our local president, we put that in practice immediately.
Yep. I had a chance to moderate a little bit of a meeting that you guys held, and it was I was very impressed by the way that they did a very good job of talking about how we honor the system and all of this kind of stuff.
We have
they did a great job.
Our board's spectacular, very accountable board, very transparent, very accountable.
Bunch of good people.
Been a great team to serve under, and so which does help it my job a lot easier.
I can appreciate how that works too. Good board equals good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then served as the mayor or served as city. City council.
Early days city councilman, 02 to 06. Got out for a season, came back as mayor, and then went to Tallahassee as the state rep.
And this is for the city of Destin. I don't know if we talked about that part yet.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, city of Destin, and we still live in Destin.
Right.
I'm in my 4th year of a 4-year term for the county commission.
Right. So went over as a representative. You did 1 term or 2 terms?
Did 2 terms.
2 terms.
4 years.
Those are because those are 2-year terms. That's brutal.
Yeah, you feel like you're running most of the time, which is tough. But
it's unfortunate, actually.
It is.
I think it's hard to do anything in you can't really do anything in 2 years, and so 4 years is tough. But man, having to run all the time's got to be tough.
It is. Yeah. You always feel like you're doing something or talking to somebody or trying to raise money or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So one of the what were some of your favorite parts about being in local? So let's start with the local government. So city council and the mayor. What was the best part about that?
just creating a community of trying to always instill honor and purpose for the community. And one of the funnest things was always going into our elementary school and giving good citizenship awards.
Nice.
And getting a chance to really look.
We're going to steal that idea. So you guys go and give them like little awards and whatnot?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The fifth graders.
Hey, make a note of that, Shay. We're going to do that.
Fifth graders, they get selected from their teachers.
Come on.
It's one per class, and they come forward and they get a little medallion around their neck, and you get a chance just
my goodness.
Photos. And
JB will lose his mind. He's going to love that.
That was always one of the funnest things to do.
Yeah.
And then go out and just really just to encourage people. You know, Destin, where I grew up, where my kids grew up, and where I got a chance to serve is, you know, big in tourism, as you know. And, you know, I kind of would break down that word hospitality and what it really means. It's more than just serving our friends that come in from Knoxville, Nashville, or whatever the case may be. It's how we serve each other. And so it's just building that culture of honor within the community. Recognizing the city of Destin is one zip code, and so I would kind of just say, you know, when you come from 32541, you become family, and so it's kind of breaking down walls of separation, and then also looking to our neighbors and throughout the county, and why we're all part of the same team and part of the same family. So
very cool. So you said 01?
I was city council from 02 to 06.
Okay.
It's a 4-year term, and finished my term, and then we actually moved out of the city limits. Destin, it's hard to move outside the city limits in Destin, but we did, and so I had to not run again. So
I gotcha. Yeah. So one of the terms, and I want to get to some of the later part of the career, but one of the things I always hear you say, and I want you to tease it out a little bit for us, is because I stole it from you to some extent. I use it when I'm really trying to drive home how and why we treat everyone the same, or not everybody doesn't get treated the same. That's not necessarily fair, but how we treat everybody with respect is this term honor. And and you use it. I've heard you use it 1,000 times if I've heard you use it once. So tease that out for me. Like, what do you mean when you're talking about treating people with honor? Because it's more of like just a presence of who you are and just how you approach each different stage of opportunity to lead people. So let's talk about honor for a minute.
Sure, and I think I skinned my knee enough for everybody. So I've learned the hard way of trying to back into it. But for me, honor means a couple things. First of all, it's celebrating who someone is, not what they're not. Society, social media, culture will always try to tell you what you're not, or the unfortunate by comparison, or whatever the case may be, where people think lesser than. And I believe that we have, as I say, one word can change someone's life. And so, people say that a lot, and I get that, but we have what I call divine intersections every day of our life. When you left the home this morning, you had no idea. You may see someone at the convenience store, maybe here at City Hall. It could be at the grocery store or on the job site, or whatever the case may be, and you have no idea what they brought to work that day. So just one word, a glance, a smile, game changers, because they're used to or expecting something different. But I think when you can tell them one word of promise or hope, it can change their life and really change their trajectory. So honor to me is celebrating that. Second part of that is there's a passage that says that the body was meant to fit together perfectly. And as each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow so that the body is edified and growing and full of love. Now, if you change that word body to the city, the workplace was meant to fit together perfectly. And why I say it that way is within a culture of honor is you're celebrating every part of the team. You mentioned real estate. In a real estate transaction, many times the sales agent, for deserving reasons, gets a lot of accolades. Hey, they sold a great house, a great property, a big lot, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that transaction is not going to close unless, if they need financing, the loan's got to close. So that lender's important. You got a survey. If there's an encroachment, that's not happening. You got to get insurance. There's an issue, it's not happening. Inspector. The hard part is usually the sales, the realtor will usually get the honor. But that transaction doesn't happen until all these other pieces do their job. And so when you look in a business, many times it's the city manager. It may not be the one cleaning the street. However, that person cleaning the street can change the whole DNA of a city because of how the community looks. And so,
and I can't. And typically the ones that are in the front really can't.
Right.
Really we can't. We coordinate stuff, but at the end of the day, if all the rest of the pieces aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing,
100% correct.
You don't get there.
So that honor flows up and down.
I love that.
Years back, I wrote a book. In fact, it's funny. I looked it up today, but it was called "Honor: The Community Pathway to City Impact." And I think as you do look at the functionalities of the community, the marketplace, the city, business, education, government, all working together, it can become a game changer. And honor is just part of that.
Yeah, that's very, very good. So you wrote a book.
Yeah, years back. Yeah.
Yeah. So where can we get it? Can we
So,
get it?
I think Christian International still sells them.
Okay,
so I don't
fantastic.
know. It's been a while. It's been a while.
I love that. Mine goes to the editor hopefully next week.
Congratulations.
Is what I'm trying to. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. But so one of the so I told you, you say that, and we were somewhere, and I couldn't tell you if you were scaring me about it, but maybe we were at a chamber meeting or something. But I heard you use that term, and it really resonated. It was a couple days before I had a training for my team. We do citywide trainings a lot, a couple of times a year, and how I ended up relaying it to them, but it really hung with me because it was like, to me, this we're going to show them honor is like we are making a decision that we're going to. I love the way you said it. We're going to focus on. You didn't say it like this, but basically, you're going to focus on the good. And not where the shortcomings are. How did you word it?
Yeah, focus on what unites you versus divides you.
Yeah,
or and focus on who you are, not what you're not.
That's it. Who you are, and not what you're not. What I told them is that we are going to, when I was explaining it to my team, I said we're going to honor everybody we come in contact with, and what I mean by that is we're going to treat them better than they deserve. Yeah. And some people really deserve good treatment. And some people we don't think deserve, by man's thinking, doesn't necessarily deserve good treatment from me. We want to give them what they gave us, but we're always going to treat people better than they treat us, and we're going to honor them. And I that's something that I took away from you that I've been trying to work into the conversation that I have with my team. So that's very.
Well, you do that. You're a great example of it.
Well, we'll see. I don't know about that part of it, but we try. We definitely try, and then we get back up and try again when we fail. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
So I love that part of it. So then you worked in the city. You did that stuff, decided that you were going to go. So you moved outside the city. And is that what drove the decision to run for the representative seat?
No, we'd moved out of the city into a community that was just outside the city limits. So I sat out for a while. My wife and I, we owned some retail stores. We went through a few seasons. I mean, where I've worked in my past, I worked for Hershey Foods. I worked for a couple of Fortune 500 companies. I've done various things. It just worked out that we moved back into the city, and when we did, the then mayor at the time, we were part of a little Bible study group that we were going through. We had a few people we just talked weekly, and a couple people started saying, "Hey, Mel, I think you should probably run for mayor." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't know." And then the then mayor at the time, Sam Sievers, who's a great mayor, great lady. She and I had spoken, and she had made a tough decision not to run again. Right. And it was a timing. It just worked out that it was around Thanksgiving. Qualifying was like the next 2 or 3 weeks. It was a short window. Right. She got out, and I jumped in, and it just worked out. No one else got in time. Nice. And so I was able to win.
Tough one race.
Tough one race, absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got back, and we moved back into the city.
And then you did the mayor thing, and then you went from there to the state. So what was your favorite part about being over in the House?
Relationships.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the work is always good. It's hard. There's so much stuff that happens that people don't realize in terms of working a bill, trying to fight for appropriations, getting appropriations in, building a relationship with staff, building a relationship with the other party. There's always something moving. Yeah. But for me, I mean, the political process, it can draw good and bad out of people. Right. But for me, what I tried to focus on, regardless of what letter came after your name, was trying to build that relationship. And so even now, being away from that for 4 years, I still have great friends in Tallahassee, or throughout the process, as they call it. And to this day, I can call them. Like Lieutenant Governor's a personal friend. She would come in and speak at our workplace ministry. Those are just unusual relationships, and so those are ones I greatly cherish. Yeah. And so when people talk about what was your best thing, to me it was the relationship aspect, because that's what sticks with you the longest.
I think that's why we get along so well. Because I honestly, I think everything, and anybody who's watched any of these, they know we always talk about on this podcast, everything starts with a relationship. Yeah. It's all about the people, right? Yeah. Even in one of our internal messages at the city is that we're going to be technically sound and put people first. Yeah. And so we're going to know our job, but we're going to put people first. So once we meet the requirements of the job, it's going to be, if the question is, do I go home because I can't focus because my kid's in the line of the storm or something? Yeah, you go home. Yeah. We're going to put people first and stuff like that. And so I just love that part of it.
I mean, there's a lot of policy and a lot of tropes I'm proud of, but I mean, that's the thing that's what will stick with you, because bills change every year, as you know. Yeah. But relationships can last a lifetime.
Yeah, I just my little bit of exposure to it leads me to believe that it could be very, very frustrating over there.
Challenging, frustrating. Yeah. I can tell you, I shared it with my wife. There's one bill that we had to vote on that coming from Destin, the heavy tourism area, it was affecting Visit Florida, which is, as you know, is the umbrella brand for the state. And we got over there, and there was a speaker, and when the speaker sets his priorities, it's tough to find a position outside of that unless it's a principled decision. And one night before a vote, I'm walking downtown Tallahassee. I found myself in front of the Methodist church I used to go to when I was at Florida State. The funny thing about that is I wasn't a frequent visitor. I would always show up the Sunday before finals week. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd always figured there's a higher power there somewhere. But,
right, because you did graduate. So
yeah, I did graduate.
Somebody up there.
It worked. My wife graduated with honors. I just graduated.
Yeah,
so
I was honored to graduate.
Yeah, I was honored to graduate. And I'm like, thank you, Lordy degree instead of but I was there, and I just was searching for that piece of that compelling reason, and I received it that night, and I was able to go in and find a principled reason as to why I would support what the speaker was doing, and that way when my constituents came over, I could look them in the eye, and these are friends that I knew, and say, this is why I supported that. And I won't get into it now, but there's plenty of testimony of reckless spending, among other things that the public didn't see, and that they needed to get their act right. And so there's things like that are very, very tough when you're there, but you need to have that compelling reason to hopefully make those tough votes.
Yeah, for sure. So. And then you decided after you completed your second term that you were going to come back home, you ended up coming into a county commission seat. It just works out that way. But did you, so tell us a little bit about what your thought process, why would you not stay?
The easiest thing, and you knowing how state politics works, and when you get over there 2 or 3 years from a heavy conservative area like we're from, running for re-election normally is a more easy task at hand. So going into my third term would have probably been a fairly easy re-election. I don't want to take it for granted like I would have wanted.
I'll say it for you. It would have been a walk.
It would have been an easier process. Captain Kelly Wines retired a little earlier than what I was thinking, creating an open seat. And my first thought was, I'm going to run for the House. It's an easy re-election. I'll do whatever. But as I stopped and my wife and I talked and we began to think and pray things through, I started to look back home at my family. What I found, what I've never regretted, I've had plenty of opportunities as we all have, but where I've erred on the side of family, I've never regretted.
That's right.
And so I had a chance to come home. I still felt led to be part of the political process and still serve.
Right.
Ran against a tremendous gentleman and guy coming, Parker Destin.
Good guy.
Great champion, great person. I'm so glad he won the school board. He's going to do great things. But had a great opponent. We ran a very clean race. My track record, if we want to get into that, I'd opt not to go dirty, and so just part of what I believe. But coming home is because of family, and so being able to serve my daughter, I was able to get her through high school, have that time with her here, and then see now she's at university. So that was part of why I made that decision to come home.
Yeah, I love that part of it. You know, one of the things that I've talked about on here in the past is this idea, this concept of work-life balance, and you know, it's a class that I actually teach to my leadership group here at the city, and you know, which is kind of funny because they're all like, oh, you work 70 hours and you know all this stuff, but the reality of it is people a lot of times think that work-life balance is about the equity in time that we spend. But the way we teach it, or the way I teach it, is it has less to do with the equity of time, but about the quality of the time that's chosen. And what I explain to my team is that when you start talking about this idea or concept of work-life balance, the only people that can actually pick how you spend that time are the people that are affected by it, not us, right? So we don't. So I can't go home and say to my wife, you know, I'm gonna work on our relationship better. We'll go fishing together, and I won't bring the phone. You know, that doesn't work. Now, if that looked like, baby, what would you like to do? Then you know, and she gets to pick it. And so what I try to teach the team is that the people that you are. You know, that you want to keep that balance with, the life side of that work-life balance, they have to have a say in the decision. We revert back to one of my daughters. I explained it this way. I was working at the city of Fort Walton. I was going to college, and we owned a cleaning company. We were flipping condos over in Destin on the weekends. And so really tight on time, right? I did my 4-year and 3, and I was cramming them in. I'm just too old to be going to college, so I was working away at it. Well, my daughter is young, impressionable age, you know, middle school, and so she was in soccer and she was in dance. And so when I talked to my team about it, I said, look, she was young, but she got to participate in the decision. Baby, I can't go to both. Which is most important to you? You know, she picked soccer. relieved because I didn't want to go to dance. But so what Daddy does is Daddy makes soccer, and so like
what's important to them.
That's because what's important to them is whether or not you actually buy that value. And so when we talk about balance, I think that and usually I use this drawing of the balance, and we can have this big clock of the time we spend in work, but on the other side, what balances the weight of that clock is how valuable the piece is to the people that are in our lives.
100% agree, and that's some of the regrets even now when I look back, and I feel like I have erred to family. There's a lot of times where work conflicts come up, and you got to travel or stay here or whatever, and I've missed some things, and those still weigh heavy on my heart. Or I'll make a mistake and I say something or whatever, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd have said something differently. My wife still to this day counsels a lot of people, and a lot of the things that's come up from the surface is those parental interactions of choices of words said from when they're in elementary school, middle school, high school, and you clearly are making great choices when you're bringing them into the solution.
Well, they're grown now, so we'll see how it turns out.
I know. Two of mine are older. I was like, oh man, come on, I need some grandkids. Let's get it going. So,
it's the best. We'll talk about that later. Oh my gosh,
wonderful. So anyway, so I fully get it. Well done. Great decision.
Well, right. But in essence, that's what you did. You said, hey, look, because to be there, I mean, you're a representative. It's a good title. It's a cool title. We all like it to some extent. I think. And plus, even if you don't like even if it's not about necessarily the position, your ability to impact change in your 14 years, you said, in local government in general, right? This is about to end 45 days from the recording of this. You've chosen to not do it anymore, but you don't do that for that long if you don't want to make a difference where you live.
Correct.
Right? Because the money's not in it. Yeah. Contrary to what people would like to think happens, the money's not in it.
The money's not in it, especially at the city level. I mean, the county, they do pay you well, but as we spoke before, I didn't want to stay in it for the money. And so but the purpose to what's your compelling reason? What's your purpose to why you do it?
So over there, it's big purpose.
Oh, big purpose. And everybody, you get told all the, how funny and smart and great bills and all that. And that, and the sad thing is just, it's part of that culture, but you cannot let Tallahassee make you something you're not. You need to be the same person when you get back home as you are over there. Yeah. And, what I noticed over there, and right, wrong, or indifferent, every representative center that runs, they're sacrificing a lot to be there away from their families. And everyone, for the most part, I believe their purpose is genuine to be there. But when your time is done at the end of 8 years in the House or the Senate, if you're not going back and forth, it's unfortunately like next person up. So what you quickly realize is that what really matters is your family.
That's right.
They're going to be with you beyond that 8 years or 16 years or whatever you serve. They're going to still be there. And so it's important that if you have that opportunity, put your investment on the things that are more eternal like that, like work, like family.
Agreed. And making a difference in people, in people's lives. And so so there's another thing you do, business empowerment.
Business Empowered.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What is Business Empowered all about?
Business Empowered is it's a workplace ministry. It's like a Christian chamber.
It's a faith-based thing.
It's a faith-based organization that was kind of birthed out of back when I was a city council member. I had a situation where we owned some retail stores. They weren't doing as well as I would like for them to do, and we were fairly faithful in our giving. And so I was in a wrestling match one morning with the Lord in prayer about, hey, we're faithful with our giving. Why is our store struggling? And at that point in time, I got the question back to me, or at least I felt the question came back to me was, why does the Destin fishing fleet do well every year? And I was like, well, that was not my question, Lord. Clearly you're not listening to me.
I'm not selling fish.
I'm not selling. And so, but I finally lost the argument. And what I felt was that each year they have a priestly or pastoral blessing declared over the whole industry called the blessing of the fleet. Yeah. Been around for a while. And so at that point, myself and a boat captain named Mike Parker, who I didn't know at the time, met with the priest of the fleet, expanded it into what's called Destin's Week of Blessings. It's been going on for 24 years now. It's really cool. It's cool stuff.
Pretty cool.
So from that, that whole concept, back when 07, 8, 9, when the real estate market kind of went defunct at that point in time, I was a mortgage originator prior to that. And so within a matter of months, my life changed dramatically. Yeah. My wife said, hey, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I'd love to do workplace ministry. So I went down to New Zealand, saw this model down there of a husband and wife team, and it's really a unification effort, which is really near and dear to my heart, and is a blessing model of bringing communities together. And I told my wife, Mona, I said, that'd be really cool. Yeah. So we launched that idea 14 years ago. We've had it, and it's been organic. We don't put a lot of marketing behind it. People come. We have a monthly meeting like a chamber would.
Right.
We have a website. We do some outreach occasionally. We try to bring in key speakers on leadership that tie faith and work together, and our purpose and work together, whatever you feel led to do. We've had, as I mentioned, Lieutenant Governor. We've had the CFO. We've had local. We just recently the CEO of the Florida Chamber, and then we have local leaders as well, and they talk about their faith journey and workplace. Good. And so we it's been a fun ride. I mean, and we've had a couple times where my wife and I are like, well, is it time? Has it run its course? Yeah. And unsolicited testimonies will come at those months meetings, like, hey, this thing is. I was here one day and I had one word in season I wasn't expecting. Now my business has turned around. Or, hey, I can see other faith leaders because those people of faith. What I always say is that on Sunday morning you can look down your pews or chairs and you kind of know who's on your denominational team on Sunday. But really, we're all called to a marketplace, to a city where the faith base of the community are really meant to work together with each other. Yeah. And it's really important to know who's on your team Monday through Saturday as well for those people of faith. Yeah. And so those are messages we try to always instill, as well as validate their purpose and call. And so that's kind of the main crux behind it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea, the concept behind it. The idea of, workplace ministry in general is, I think that, we all live out whatever our core beliefs are, we live them out every day where we're at. Sure. And so that, I've mentioned it on here before, right, wrong, or otherwise, I believe that, the Bible says that God raises a man up and he takes him out, right? Sure. It's in the book of Daniel. And he's talking specifically about leadership. And in that particular time, it was a king. And so, using that mentality, as I get older, get more gray, understanding that mentality allows me to just say, look, I'm going to be what I am all the time. And when my time is up in the role that I'm in, I'll go do something different. Yeah. And, the desire to stay in the seat I'm in will never shape who I am. Mm-hmm. Who I am shapes the way I handle the seat I'm in. Yeah. And then the rest of it will just work itself out.
Well said.
Yeah, so that's so cool, so cool. Yeah. And what I love about it too is it gives, and we're almost out of time, but what I love about it too is it gives us the opportunity for, like you said, who's on your team on Sunday, but then you also get a general idea who else is out there in the industry that you should be able to rely on. Plus, it might give a little bit of accountability. He should be acting better than that.
Yeah. Come on, expect more than you. Yeah, absolutely.
You should know better, do better. No, that's so good. Well, listen, we are almost out of time. I really appreciate you taking time coming out and hanging out with us in Crestview. I'm going to miss you on the county commission. We got a great guy following you, so that's good too.
Drew's a great guy. He'll be great. He's already a great leader. He's going to do great things. So
I think Drew will do well, but we're excited about it. There is one question I ask everybody on here. I forgot to prep you beforehand, but you'll be fine. Because this is a leadership podcast, I always like to ask this question. When you look back over your career, is there a specific individual who was in a leadership role, and it could be influential, not necessarily positional, could be anybody. When you look back, somebody that you looked up to that demonstrated characteristics of a leader that you wanted to kind of emulate, and then why? Who was it and why?
There's several. I mean, I could, from political standpoint, I could talk about some, but it may be too easy, but it's my wife.
No, it's good.
So she's been a great leader. She's been very consistent. She's a high principled person, very passionate. She is very honorable and loving of me, but also expecting, which is good. I got one of
those too.
And I need that. I mean, I want to be held to a higher standard. I mean, because I'm going to skin my knee, walk into a few walls, and I'm going to fail many people on this journey. But at the end of the day, she's faithful, consistent, very loving, great mom, great partner in life, and she always inspires me. And I learn from her a lot. She's a learner. And she's a teacher, and I'm more of the edification and exhorting. She's a teacher and learner, and she will come up with stuff, and I just love to listen to her talk. And she'll wake up occasionally on a weekend morning, sometimes during the week, and I call it Moments with Mona, or mornings with Mona as well. And she'll have a nugget or a download, and I'm thinking, man, that's just powerful. So I always look to her for as a great strength to me, and what she does, and so I'm just so inspired by her.
That's awesome. That's so good. Well, listen, once again, thank you so much for coming. Also, thank you for all the things that you've done for both the city of Crestview. When I was in the city of Fort Walton, you helped us out there as well.
You've been a great friend.
But also, more importantly, Mel, I want to thank you for who you are, the way you carry yourself, no matter what position you're in, no matter what level of positional authority you've always had. I can always count on that Mel is going to be Mel. And that means that you're going to be, a man of principles, a man of honor, a man of faith. And so I just appreciate that. Something that I look up to and hope to be able to continue to try to
well
represent.
Beyond that.
Well, I appreciate it. For those of you who watch the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. If you have anything you'd like for us to talk about or people you'd like for me to interview, go ahead and put it down in the comments. We're on all the different podcast platforms. You can find us on Spotify, Podbean, you know them all the different podcast platforms, on YouTube and on our Facebook page. And so we thank you so much for joining us, and that's why Crestview leads.